Salve omnes, and welcome to Aeneid 2, section 2, this one on the death of Polites and Priam cursing Pyrrhus. A little bit of background to start. So obviously Priam is the king of Troy, married to his wife Hecuba. They have quite a lot of children. Hector was the crown prince of Troy. He was kind of the awesome one who was second to only a very small number of the Greeks, despite the fact that his parents were mortal, as opposed to some of the Greeks who have immortal parents. Paris avenged to some extent his brother, who was killed by Hector. Paris kills Achilles. He does not do so in an honourable way. He, in most versions of the myth, shoots him in the foot, which is not exactly heroic combat. Polites, I just couldn't find a good image for him, so yeah. He is shortly to die. And Creusa, who is their sister, who is married to Aeneas, who's also shortly to die, and a ridiculous number else. In the Iliad itself, Priam says that he had 19 sons by his wife Hecuba, and another 31 sons, and then it's like 20-odd daughters as well. You'll notice that most of them have already been killed. Most of them have already been killed by Achilles, actually. He complains about this in the Iliad. So, into the Latin. So this follows directly on from last time, so look, however, look at this important word, well, attention-grabbing word right at the start there. Look, however, Polites, one of the sons of Priam, having slipped day away from the slaughter of Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus is a son of Achilles, the son of Achilles. Kaides, by the way, slaughter, murder, carnage, always quite a negative word, it's not a happy word. He flees along the long porticos. Porticos are long corridors. Through weapons, through enemies. Nice bit of repetition. And he, lustrat, wanders the empty halls, the entry, literally atriums, but that's nonsense. The empty halls, wounded. Really couple of interesting points here. So lustrat comes from the word lustrum, which in the predecessor to Latin is related to making stuff clean and bright. And indeed, lustro, the verb, can mean I clean or I purify something. But because it's about cleaning and purifying, when you have to purify something by washing it before you sacrifice it, lustrum can therefore mean a purificatory sacrifice. But since the priest wanders around the sacrifice, and if I remember rightly, like sort of sprays the sacrifice with water to some extent to sort of symbolise purification, it therefore can mean I wander. Pretty pointlessly, in fact. So, if the word for wander here isn't just the sort of normal roam around, but it's a word to do with, like, sacrifice, what does that say about Polites? Hint, not good things. We also got this Saucius, wounded. I've tried to actually make it clear in the English, the enjambment. Next, logically, this word Saucius should be next to Polites, but it's been enjambed and delayed all the way to the end, hugely longer, so it really gives you this impression of him sort of staggering along wounded. Lots of emphasis. Ardens, burning, fiery Pyrrhus pursues in sequor, coming from sequor, which is the opponent verb. Pursues him, illum. Literally, this is with an unsafe infestus wound, vulnere, which is, been translated here, to inflict a wound, or eager to inflict a wound, I have seen. Ardens comes from ardeo, meaning I burn, and burning passion is usually quite negative in the Aeneid. It is sort of the opposite of being dutiful and cold and logical and sort of doing things properly. Burning passion usually creates problems. He grabs him by hand, now, and now presses him by spear. This is quite tricky to put into English, because you've got two ands and two nows, and it's hard. But obviously, like, lots of action. Here, I've actually bothered to scan this line. So if we read this out, it'd be in sequitur yamque manu tenet et premithasta. Obviously, it would be read a bit faster than that, but that's a lot of these short dactyls. It makes the line quite fast, because it'd be more in sequitur, yamque manu tenet et premithasta. That's a fast line. There's quite a lot of this emphasis of him chasing down the corridor. Finally, tandem, as he dodges before the eyes and aura, faces of his parents, parents being third declension, so that is third declension genitive, he fell and poured out his vitam, his life, with multo sanguine, with a lot of blood. So, that's quite dramatic, you know, falling down in front of his parents. Here, Priam, although he is literally being held, now, in the middle of death. So he was now in death's clutches, is how we're going to translate that. Nonetheless, he did not hold back, nor spare his voice and anger. Lovely example of this hendiadys, where you link two words by conjunction. So, you know, voice and anger, as opposed to, like, angry voice. You can incidentally do a hendiadys for verbs. Instead of saying something like, he tried to arrive, he tried and arrived, or whatever. It doesn't matter for our particular purposes, but you can link these two words, and it kind of emphasises here this idea of the voice and anger. He's really very annoyed because he's just seen his son be murdered in front of him. But, or yet, to you, Tibby, for your wickedness, he shouted. That's still historic present, although I don't think I've noted this time, but lots and lots of action sequence here. For such darings, that's plural, but for such daring, or for such daring acts, perhaps. If there is, est, any pietas, if there's any sense of duty in heaven, qua can be translated as any, it's basically the same word as quis, but can be translated as any. Pietas is the big theme. Very, very strong theme in the Aeneid. It's pretty much almost the opposite to the burning passion is pietas, the sense of duty to your country even if you don't want to. So if there's any sense of duty in heaven which curet cares for such things, neuter plural, may the gods give, literally loose, but give grates dignas, worthy thanks, or favours. Per solvant is a present subjunctive. May they do this. May the gods give worthy thanks. And hand back, or pay back, the, well, I have noted it here, the primia, the rewards, debita, owed, or due. What do you think Priam here means when he says worthy thanks and due rewards? He's not being positive, is he? You who, qui, made me openly see or behold the death of a son, and thoidaste, which is defiled, the vultus, literally the faces, the fatherly faces. Should really be singular here for translation purposes. Defiled a father's face or expression, funere, with murder. Defiled a father's expression in the sense of like what he is looking at. Very, very strong language here for your crime, for your daring, you know, against the gods almost. You defile the father's expression. That's very, very strong language. But that Achilles, from whom, quo, from whom you falsely menteres, you falsely pretend, or you falsely claim, or you pretend that you were sprung. So here we've actually got an indirect statement that's kind of been mixed up in terms of order. From whom you claim that you, as our accusative, were sprung as an infinitive, although the essay has been missed out because of reasons of poetry. He was, Fuit, not such in his enemy Priam. So was no such, brackets, enemy, against his enemy Priam. But he respected, Erubu is literally he blushed, so apparently that means he respected. He respected the rights and trust of a supplicant, and he returned the exsanguine, the bloodless body, the lifeless body of Hector for burial. Hectorium effectively is an adjective here, like Hector's lifeless body for burial. And he sent me back, sent Rimizit May back into my own regna. Literally kingdoms, but translation as a singular here, just for the sake of sanity. So what's going on here? So, in Homer's Iliad, in Book 16, Patroclus is pretending to be Achilles, for reasons, and he's wearing Achilles' armour, and he goes out, and he kills quite a few of the Trojans, he drives them back, he actually kills a son of Zeus, Sarpedon, but Hector, with some help from Apollo and another random dude, manages to kill Patroclus. Okay. Now, in this ancient time, people would sort of fight over the bodies and armour of important dudes. So Hector manages to rip Achilles' armour off of Patroclus' body, and tries to actually take the body away as well, but the Greeks manage to recover the body. There are shenanigans in between here, including Achilles having some new armour forged, but, long version, Achilles, after murdering his way through like half the Trojan army, and literally damming a river and then beating up the river god as a result, he finally catches up to Hector and kills him in a one-on-one duel. Okay, fine. Then he does something bad. He takes Hector's body and attaches it to the back of his chariot and drives off. Now, that's pretty disrespectful. Now, they do talk about, in the Iliad, you know, this idea of, you know, if you capture the body of an enemy general or whatever, you might throw it, you might either ransom it back or throw it as just to be food for the carrion dogs, carrion birds and dogs. But Achilles goes a little bit beyond that. He literally, for days, drives up and down the beach, just dragging this body behind him. It's actually preserved by some of the gods, who eventually decide, okay, this is too much. He is being massively disrespectful. And they send Hermes to help Priam sneak out of the city at night, and he turns up in Achilles' tent. And he begs him to return his son's body in return for a ridiculous chunk of cash. Achilles is greatly moved by this, and they agree. It's not quite as simple as that. Achilles does still threaten him quite a bit and basically says, don't push your luck, mate, I'm still quite happy to murder you. But they do agree, and he does send off Priam, although he keeps all the cash, and he actually arranges a truce for long enough for Priam to gather food. So that's kind of this scene here. There's a very touching line along the lines of Priam saying to Achilles, you who have made me do what no other father has ever suffered before, you have made me kiss the hands of the man who murdered my son. It's a really powerful line, and a very key theme in this is here. Godlike Achilles, think of your own father, who is of my generation, and so is likewise on the sad threshold of old age. Priam goes on about, well, not goes on, he talks about the sort of respect between a father and a son, and it persuades Achilles, because it's also worth remembering that Achilles knows he is going to die at Troy. So, you know, Priam here is talking about, oh, but, you know, think about your own father, and Achilles is really touched, and he relents. So, that is, down this bottom bit, he's like, he respected the rights of a supplicant, he returned the body of Hector, and he killed him in war, he didn't run him down, is the implicit bit. So he is really getting on at Pyrrhus. As we will see in the next section, Pyrrhus does not respond well to this. Thank you very much, hope that helps.